Hi, good morning or good afternoon to everyone joining. We're trying to get that waiting room cleared out and giving everyone a chance to get connected, get their audio connected. So let's give everybody just a couple of minutes here to get settled in virtually. I see a few familiar names out there. So it's really happy to have you guys with us on this Wednesday afternoon or morning, depending on where you find yourself during this broadcast today. Scott, it's good to see you. Aho, brother, good to see you. There he is. And yeah, I see a few others too. It's really great to see you guys. We've got a great presentation scheduled for today. So I really hope you can close out other programs and disconnect for the next hour and join us in this discussion. There's some great information. I know for some of you, it may be just a kind of a review or a refresher. And for others, it may be something you're learning about for the first time. But we're really pleased to have Dr. Avis Garcia here with us today. She is one of our consultants here at the National American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. I also have on the line with us today Jeff Ledoulter, who is a colleague and co-worker here at the center. He'll be assisting as well with some, if anyone has any tech issues or difficulties, Jeff will try and be available to assist you. So, but we're really pleased to be able to present some really important information on group counseling as it applies to the behavioral health field. And just want to again welcome everyone. Glad you're here. Glad you could be with us this morning. I've just got a few slides I'll go over. My name is Steve Steiny. I'm one of the managers here broadcasting to you live from the University of Iowa College of Public Health. I work for the National American Indian Alaska Native ATTC here at the University of Iowa, as I said. So really happy to have you here this morning or this afternoon. This event is brought to you by the National American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. We are located, as I mentioned, at the University of Iowa, and we are part of a much larger national ATTC network that includes the National Hispanic Latino ATTC, our center, and a coordinating center at the University of Missouri in Kansas City. And then we have 10 regional centers across the country. See if I can advance my slides without breaking anything. This project is supported and funded by SAMHSA. The content is developed by the presenter, and the opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect the views or policies of SAMHSA, HHS, or the American Indian Alaska Native ATTC. Following today's event, we will reach out to you with an email, which will include links to the presentation. It will likely include a PDF version of today's presentation for your later viewing. And there will be a recording available on our ATTC YouTube archive. I can post that link in the chat. It's a great resource. It's got all of our previous broadcasts there right at your fingertips. It's a wonderful resource. So maybe we can post that, Jeff, in the chat box for folks as we get started. There'll also be an opportunity for you to request CEUs. We will offer 1 to 1.5 CEUs today, depending on how long the broadcast goes. But you can request those at the time of the follow-up email. In that, there will also be included a link to our evaluation. And I think Jeff or myself will also post that link in the chat box at the end of today's broadcast, so you can take care of it right away. If you don't have time to do that, please fill that survey out when you get our email. It's really important to our center it ensures that we're able to continue to provide events such as this. Your participation, of course, is voluntary, but we would really appreciate taking a few minutes to complete this short survey. You can skip any questions that you would like, and your responses are kept confidential and cannot be linked to you in any way. Please reach out to Jeff or myself or Dr. Garcia if you have any questions about that survey. I know we're gathered here virtually today, but we want to take time to acknowledge the land and pay respect to the indigenous nations whose homelands were forcibly taken and inhabited. Please take a moment to read this land acknowledgement, which was created by 3 members of our team, Ella and Keely Driscoll, and our co-director, Sean Bear the First. Thank you. Well, without further ado, I want to turn the floor over to my colleague and friend, Avis Garcia. She is an enrolled member of the Northern Arapaho tribe and is also affiliated with the Eastern Shoshone tribes of the Wind River Reservation in Wyoming. I have had the pleasure and honor of working with Dr. Garcia over the past year, and she is one of our consultants here at our center, and I also consider her a friend. She's got 20 years of experience working in the field and a lot of knowledge and experience to pass along. So we're really thrilled to have her here with us today. I want to turn the floor over to her so she can get started. We have a lot of information to cover. So again, close out any other programs you've got going. Sit back and relax. I know you're currently muted right now. There may be an opportunity to unmute and ask questions at the end of today's presentation. If not, you can also post questions in the chat box or reach out to myself or Jeff, and we can forward any questions on to Avis at a later time. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Dr. Avis Garcia. Again, really happy to have everyone here, and thank you for joining us today. Yeah, Avis, yeah, there you go. You got it. That's perfect. And I think we just need to have you unmute and we're ready to go.
Sorry, guys, I didn't realize I had myself muted. I was talking and
I know. I thought we were going to maybe try and have to guess what you were saying and really make it a challenge. So thank you, Avis.
Good morning and good afternoon. Thank all of you guys for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here today. Today's topic that I'll be reviewing is group counseling skills. And I tell everyone that this isn't just for people that are going to take the exam. It's a good refresher. It's good extra training to help you with your group counseling skills. So we'll go on ahead and get started here. Oops. Okay. Here we go. The overview of the group counseling. Part 1 will be the how-to, the types of groups, the membership to those different types of groups, implementation and facilitation of those groups. Part 2 would be group work with Native patients, the communication styles, cultural considerations, engagement, as well as Native retention strategies. Part 1, let me see. Okay, part 1, the how-to. There are different types of groups. One of the most common ones in substance abuse work is psychoeducational groups. They're mainly to provide specific information on certain issues, teach healthy coping skills, expand patient awareness of behaviors and consequences, to assist them in motivating them towards change, frequently used to address substance use and other problematic behaviors. The facilitator takes the role as the teacher. The other types of groups we have are skills development. The purpose is to cultivate skills people will need to achieve and maintain abstinence. And this operates from a cognitive behavioral orientation, or whatever theoretical orientation is being used for that specific skill. DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, is a new one that's entered the treatment programming that I find to be very useful. Here's some other types of groups. Cognitive behavioral groups. Cognitive behavioral therapy is real common in substance abuse because we're looking at their thinking. The leader focuses on providing a structured environment within which group members can examine the behaviors, thoughts, and beliefs that lead to their maladaptive behaviors, so they can look at, what could they do differently. Support groups origins are in the self-help tradition, offering social support, unconditional acceptance, inward reflection. These are especially useful for apprehensive patients and offers a safe environment and helps to destigmatize the problem or the activity. So when we talk about self-help groups, we might be thinking about the AA and NA and those other types of recovery support groups outside of the treatment setting. But now that we have our peer specialists in our recovery programs, which I love having them there, they have been really good at creating their own support groups, like within the agency where I'm at now. And the clients seem to really connect with them and relate to them pretty well. So I let the peers run their own support group here. Group membership can be fixed and revolving membership, often referred to as open or closed groups. Open format, new members enter and exit the group when ready, so they can come and leave whenever they want to go. The closed format group usually begins and ends with the same membership, so there may be a specific type of program that they need to complete. So we may start a group at a certain time and end within so many weeks. Maybe once a week we're doing anger management, just those people that come to that group, that would be that closed group. Here's the group membership, the open group and closed group. So we have the pros and cons for an open group. The dynamics with new members are a pro. The patients do not have to wait for the services, so they can come in whenever they want. And the cons are dynamics with new members. Patients may have to wait due to the size of the group. So maybe there's just too many people in there, so we might have to wait until some people exit to allow some in. Sometimes that's space requirements, and lately it's been the COVID that's affected the number of people that can actually come in physically and attend because of the social distancing that we still try to adhere to here. The closed group, the pros for that would be improved group cohesion. So these are the same people that are there all the time, every week together. So they get to get a more stronger bond with one another and know each other better. Learning builds on the previous meeting. So we're always looking back at what did we do, what did we do last week? The cons to that are the participant time commitment. So as I said, it might be an anger management group with 9 weeks that they have to attend. So they have to be there, and the patient has to wait to enter. So if it's closed, sorry, we're not having our next one until next month or whenever the next group starts. Group membership. Before placing a patient in a particular group, the provider considers the patient's readiness. Are they ready to go to group? I get some people here who want to request being individual. So, I mean, if they're struggling at first, I may take them have them see a counselor individually and work on getting them ready to enter the group setting, because some people may have never done it and they need some support to get there. We also need to look at the patient characteristics, their needs, and their preferences. Patients may need to move to different groups as they progress through treatment, encounter setbacks, and become more or less committed to addressing problematic behavior. Group membership, we have the voluntary and the involuntary. The involuntary people this is a coercion into group involvement may result in initial resistance. However, they may experience better outcomes overall. Legal obligations, family pressure, or external motivating factor can lead to patients resisting the desire to discontinue before reaching goals. Self-motivation to change can inspire other group members and positively impact group culture and norms. So a lot of times, I want to say about 95% of the substance abuse clients that come to treatment are not here voluntarily. They are here because we have a court situation, we have an employer situation, or we have the Department of Family Services involved on some level. So they're here to fulfill requirements to get their children back, or keep their job and get out of the legal issues that they may be facing. So that may be just a part of their consequences of whatever situation that led them to needing treatment. Voluntary group members often assist in providing motivation for pre-contemplators or contemplators. They can serve as effective mentors to other group members. Self-motivation to change can inspire other group members and positively impact the group culture and norms. So I'm seeing a lot more of these lately. I used to say that I never saw them, I rarely saw them, and I want to say in the last few years, I've seen a lot more people come to seek treatment for themselves because they want it, and that's a good thing. Group membership, patients often indicate the primary mode of help is through mutual support. So being in a group is really beneficial to all of them to see that, they're not the only one who's struggling with substances and trying to get their life back on track. In other words, it's not the facilitator that is most important, but the mutual support, people like them. And I think that's what's most helpful to having groups. We can relate. You want to see your classmates, coffee groups, book clubs, weight loss. The content helps, as well as seeing peers. So, providing a variety of education and different modalities can be real helpful to them. I think I just talked about doing some book work of giving some reading assignments to take home and using those to process in group. Group membership, those members who self-reported improvement were significantly more likely to have felt accepted by other group members, made specific reference to particular individuals when queried about their experience, perceived similarity of some kind among group members. Some people feel more committed to particular individuals. So some people tend to pair off really well together in treatment and others don't, but that group cohesion is a good part of treatment for patients that are seeking help. The self-help versus the mutual help. Self-help implies the individual in treatment is the main contributor to the change process. So they're the one who is controlling their own program. Mutual help means the individuals also assume partial responsibility for the recovery of their peers. So there's a little bit of both in most groups. A lot of people are there to help themselves, and being able to help others also makes them feel good, especially our peer support people. I really feel like when it comes to mutual help, they are the best helpers. Implementation of groups. As facilitators, we are responsible for establishing the parameters of the group, providing general behavioral expectations while clarifying the purpose of the group. Instead of using the term group guidelines or rules or agreements, try using group values. Rules or values, goals, confidentiality, and actions, if one breaks those, should be discussed at the beginning. Incorporate patient suggestions into group values. Ethics still apply if members express intent to harm themselves or others, and we also have our mandatory reporting laws, so that they're always aware of that. Implementation of groups. We try not to make group values too complicated or too restrictive. We want people to enjoy their time while they're in group, and they've got enough rules in their life already, especially if they're court ordered or under a supervised probation status. We also want to focus on member safety, honesty, integrity, and respect for self and others. Also focus on punctuality, beginning on time and ending on time. When we talk about working with natives, we often joke about being on Indian time. I leave some of my groups open for the start time and the end time, but I remind them that they only get the time that they actually attend. So if we have a 3-hour group scheduled and they show up 30 minutes late, then that first 30 minutes of that group doesn't count. So I make sure that I'm very clear on that, but I understand, running on Indian time, sometimes people are going to be late. So if you're working with that population, it's good to be flexible and understanding of that, and just be glad that they actually show up. Values clarification. Ask, what do I mean by establish parameters for the group, and why do we want this for our group? So it's important to let them have some input into the group, because then they feel like their opinion is valued, and they'll want to participate more. And always be open to amending, adding, or adjusting. So they might have suggestions on how we should do something, and it's always good to be open to figure out ways if what they're requesting can be done. And review at each meeting if necessary. So if you're reviewing your values, maybe you just want to make that a part of the group process, like maybe setting your agenda, like for these minutes we do this, and this time we do that. So if that has to be done, then it has to be done. Some groups do require that. Some examples of group values could be respecting confidentiality. I always tell people, what you see and who you see and what you hear here stays here when you leave. Being non-judgmental and accepting of others. A willingness to self-disclose. Participation by all group members. Valuing the importance of the group. Recognizing the available support in the group. Respecting others. A willingness to accept feedback with an open mind, and allowing others to speak without interruptions. The implementation of groups. By providing an initial overview both individually and in the group. Groups will then come to the group with appropriate expectations. Clinicians and clients can expect a greater degree of success. So when you provide an initial overview individually and in the group, we often refer to that as orientation or treatment readiness. That's generally where we sit down with the patient or the client, whatever term you use in your agency, and go over all of the expectations and all of the requirements, the rules, like how many absences, what's considered an excused absence, their responsibilities, so that they actually sign off on that and you have that in your documentation for future reference. Stages of group development and leadership roles. There are, if you look at this chart here across the top, we have the group stage, what the group is doing, the leadership tasks, so this would be the facilitator, and likely group member behavior. So we've got the forming, the storming, and the norming. So the forming is the very early stage of your group process. So what is going on? Everyone is getting to know each other and understanding the group task. So that is a good time to do some icebreakers and activities that helps people get to know each other. The leadership tasks would be the introductory exercises, get to know who the group members are and give the group enough freedom to allow initiative, yet enough guidance to feel safe. And the likely group behavior is dependent upon the leader, uncertain what to do. They may be searching for a strong leader. So they are looking at you for guidance as you're running the group. Storming, what's going on? People are getting edgy about achieving a task, wondering if the group has the skills necessary. The leadership task, we want to give them a sense of security, review and evaluate the group performance so far, and just knowing that this is just a normal part of the group process. The likely group member behavior, there may be some rebellion, they may be testing the leader's skills and authority, and sense of apathy or hopelessness. So they may be checking out a lot of things. So just being aware of that, that's one of the challenging tasks of running groups. You will encounter that at some point. Norming, this is when people start to get comfortable with the group process. So what the group is doing, allocating and settling into their group roles, developing a procedure for achieving group tasks. The leadership tasks, this is the facilitator. The trust between group members is growing and stronger relationships are developing between group members. We are clarifying our boundaries and group values, assist group members to move into roles and take more responsibility. So we really want to boost our people up, and this is where you can do that. The likely group member behavior is a sense of enthusiasm. Members are beginning to take more responsibility for leadership of the group. And we have the performing and the adjourning. The performing stage, what the group is doing, the group is involved in activity to achieve the task. We may have projects that we have them working on depending on what curriculums you're using. The leadership tasks, that would be encouragement, keeping the balance between group maintenance and task needs. So, helping keep them on track with assignments that they have to do. The likely group member behavior is a sense of getting the job done. Problems are easily overcome within the group, little need for the leader's intervention. So the longer they get to stay in group, they get more comfortable with it and they're a lot easier to manage in the group setting. They become a lot comfortable. Adjourning, this is when they're getting to the end of their group, saying goodbye and evaluating the task. Did we achieve what we set out to achieve? So, did they complete their biography? Did they complete their obituary? We have different things that we have them do as part of their treatment. So there will be certain assignments that they need to get done. Leadership tasks would be helping the group members to say goodbye and face their next challenge, making plans for the future. The likely group member behavior would be reminiscing, planning reunions. Group members often deny the end and make plans to keep in touch. There may be some regression to former problems or patterns of behavior. And I've seen that more common in residential treatment of the regression into former issues. But in outpatient, if all things are going well, you won't have, typically you don't have a lot of problems with their behavior. A lot of them are glad to be done and ready to move on. It just depends on what level of care you're providing that group in. The implementation of groups. This is in creating the group. Remember that in most cases, you are the single common element among all of the group members. So you as the facilitator are their role model, their teacher, their leader. You will wear several hats in that role. the implementation of groups. You are shaping the group, your experience and behavior, as well as the expectations of group members will guide the formation of norms. In maintaining the group, you function as a mediator, handling issues that might arise which threaten group cohesion. I often look at this role as being a parent, and these are all of your kids in the room, so you have to learn how to manage all of their behaviors in that setting, and that's just kind of how I look at it from a parent perspective. Your job is to help the group function properly by showing confidence in your abilities, remaining calm and objective, and by providing a safe environment. When these types of issues occur, it is often good to have some sort of co-facilitator. And I was taught in my graduate program that you can have one facilitator up to 12 people. So if you get 12 or more, it's often good if you can get another co-facilitator in case you need to take a problem person out and deal with them. You've got somebody to keep the group going. I found it real helpful to use my peer specialists. Sometimes they're confident enough to take that person out so that you can keep running the group. But sometimes people are just having a bad day, or they're upset about something and we need to resolve that aside from everyone else that's in the group. A typical open group would be a continuing care group. Here's an example of an agenda. So here's a men's continuing care group. Here's the agenda. The first 15 minutes would be immediate concerns that anyone might have. Relation exercise. It should be a relaxation exercise, such as a guided meditation. There could be reviewing the group rules and expectations. Again, some of these groups, will require it always as a constant reminder. And welcoming new patients, no any scheduled graduations, absences, or planned and random UAs. So this kind of gives you the layout of the time that's spent on that group. Then we have the check-ins, 30 minutes, name, their sobriety date, events that brought them to treatment, and what they're working on that week related to their recovery programming. Number 6, the topic, how do I better handle high-risk using environments in my recovery today? And this is just an example. There's hundreds and thousands of topics out there. This would take about an hour of the time. There could be discussion of strategies and experiences. There may be worksheets or applied skills that needs to be done, sharing the worksheets or work group results, doing some role playing or doing some practicing. So maybe we might have them practice calling for help of they're maybe on the verge of having a relapse and teaching them to practice calling a friend or calling us, someone that they can help get the support that they need. 7 would be closing the group and graduations if that applies. And then you need time to do your group note. I give them all a sheet that they all fill out that talks about what they did, what they learned, what they're going to do. I think it has like 3 questions on it. And that's real helpful in getting the notes done as well, because you have all of their documentation. So this covers a typical continuing care group, which is about an hour and a half. A lot of these continuing care groups, I've seen some that last for a year. The last place I worked at before I came here, we had them for 9 months. So that was just once a week for an hour and a half. But the longer they're engaged in treatment, the better their recovery is. Some common tasks of the group facilitator is always to maintain a safe environment. Serving as the group historian, being able to summarize everything that took place in the group or over a period of time, things that have been covered. Helping the patients to remain in the here and now by redirecting or bringing them back to the purpose of the group. helping the patients discover answers for themselves, not to solve problems. So maybe they're having a problem. We don't want to be problem solvers. We want to help them solve their own problems. So we might want to ask them like, so what have you done so far? Or how do you, how have you begun to proceed handling this problem? Or what steps have you taken? So really get them to thinking of how they're going to solve their own problem. It's okay to have fun and have a sense of humor, but use your professional judgment. We Native people love our humor. And I think I made everybody laugh this morning in my staff meeting because sadly, we have a burnt building next door to our office here. And I was talking to them about people taking stuff out of the building when we're not here at work because I usually stay late. And just having humor is really good for working with natives. We already talked about the humor, redirecting the war stories. This is one that people can get sidetracked on, and it's good if you can put this into your rules of, this is not where we want to go. We don't want to go into the past of when you were using drugs or trying to glamorize what happened in the past that involved using substances. Are the overwhelming task of looking way into the future, like where you're going to be for 5 years from now, because that can also be overwhelming. It's really getting them to learn to focus on the here and now and not the past. And as a counselor, I remind them when we're looking at the past, we're looking at depression. And if we're looking at the future, we're having some anxiety. So it's really good for them to learn that balance of being in the here and now so that they don't overwhelm themselves or bring themselves down. If you can get the group members to use I statements, you're doing well. So it's being able to take responsibility and accountability for whatever information they share in that group. Facilitator and the co-facilitator. The facilitator should be prepared, responsible for all consent forms, all of the sign-in sheets, and other data. Greet and welcome each person that enters the group, guide the discussion, manage the participation, thank the participants, help clean up, and complete the debrief process. The co-facilitator, you need to avoid sitting side by side. I prefer you sit directly across from each other in the group. One can be in charge of nonverbal cues of members. They can handle sign-in, room temperature, visitors at the door, anything else. Monitor the time, help clean up and complete the debrief process, and help do the group notes. Okay, now we're going to talk about working with Native people. This is part 2. When we talk about Native people, we're talking about Native Americans, American Indians, some are Alaska Natives, Native Hawaiians, First Nations, or other indigenous people. Looking here, the American Indian and Native Americans consist of 573 federally recognized tribes in the lower 48 states. Alaska Native and Hawaiian Native have 231 tribal communities in Alaska and within the Hawaiian Islands. Native communication styles can be very different in Indian country. So there is a clear difference in how we communicate in Indian country. The Native communication styles for Native clients cannot be generalized. However, it is an important concept to discuss when working to improve the provider's ability to work with Native people. Native people are sometimes taught that listening rather than speaking immediately is important, and that is very true. A lot of our teachings have been passed down through oral tradition. Historically, I know my people were nomadic people and they traveled often. They didn't just stay in one place forever like we do now. They traveled around the the country, following food sources, and they weren't able to carry books and pens and paper. So a lot of that was, stored in their mind and, in their heart to share learning. So, and a lot of that was, respecting the person who is talking, the person who is teaching, and that is to be quiet. We're different, not just in group, but also in the classroom setting. I see clear differences, throughout my educational experience of we are a lot different. I've often gotten comments of how quiet I am, and it's like, I'm one of those more analytical kind of people, and I think a lot of natives are just that way. Personal information about oneself and one's family is not easily shared. They'll tend to keep this to themselves unless they get comfortable. They will start to open up and share a little bit more information about their home life. Silence or minimal sharing should not be interpreted as disinterest or an indication that something is wrong. And a lot of Native people are it takes a long time for them to build up the confidence just to speak. I mean, just speaking in front of others can be a scary experience. So that part of that orientation to treatment would be a good time to help them talk about, their participation in group. And then, just being able to speak up for themselves, because some of them have been that way for most of their lives. They just haven't, really done much speaking up for themselves at all. Where English is the patient's second language, the speech may be thoughtful and slower. Some Native people, especially elders, may believe that talking about a topic wills it to come true. So if we're talking about something that is really difficult and challenging, some people might have those beliefs. And I talk about when we say we have 573 federally recognized tribes, I feel like society as a whole puts us all in one category, and you're Native American and we all think the same and all of that. So I really have a problem with that personally, because I myself right now am in Crow country where I run a program, and I'm finding myself having to educate myself about their culture because I'm seeing a lot of differences between mine, and I see some similarities, but we're not all entirely the same. And one of them here is a lot of people do come in where English is their second language, because these people here in this area speak their language fluently. Cultural considerations, the clinical experience, the bio, psycho, social, and spiritual, builds upon and fosters positive therapeutic relationships, builds trust, increases the likelihood of treatment plan adherence, and reduces patient attrition, that keeps them coming back. So when they feel like their culture is a part of the program, and that we have here, I have all tribal members running all aspects of this program. And we also have a cultural person who runs cultural activities and groups and education here for the clients that come. So some of these people I feel are coming just for the cultural education that we're providing with our cultural person, and that's perfectly fine. Reaffirm the patients as experts in their own health, mental, behavioral health, and spiritual experiences. When we talk about working from a patient-centered orientation, this is where that patient gets to have that control, or feeling like they're in control of their life, because they may have started engaging in substances feeling they didn't have any control, or I really feel that they're having some say in what's going to happen as far as their care goes really helps to build them up. In doing so, we help patients make positive changes in their lives, which also increases their motivation. Some other cultural considerations to consider would be, how does this fit with Native worldviews? Most often, working effectively with Native people requires a shift in the delivery of our services. And how do we work from a culturally relevant perspective? The importance of spirituality, often part of cultural teachings, both learned and ingrained in the community. For example, death, births, and puberty ceremonies. And like I said, I'm here learning some new things in the community where I'm located at now. And, you know, one of the things I learned was when we eat, I was taught you feed the elderly people first, where I come from in my Arapaho community. But here, I was asked to pray for one of our staff's birthday here. And so when it was time to eat, they told me, you get to go first because you prayed. And I was like, oh, I was looking to the eldest colleague and saying, this is how we do it back home. And it's like I say, I'm learning about their different ways where I'm at. Spirituality is a part of a holistic approach to wellness. An example is appreciation and respect for nature, environment, and surroundings. So, our cultural person we're planning an outing where our people will go pick medicines and learn to make some teas that are helpful to their wellness. Appreciation and respect for our health, bodies, mind, and our connection to the past. Some more cultural considerations. In my experience, taboo subjects can include HIV as opposed to diabetes, sexual behaviors, particularly the LGBTQ community, drug use, general issues of modesty and privacy, cross-gender communication. Modesty is not about shyness, but about respect. Some other cultural considerations would be Native-specific cultural risk factors, a lack of confidentiality, that trust, a lack of social services, both rural and reservation, limited access to comprehensive health care, a circular migration from rural and urban. So here where I'm at, we have Billings, Montana, which is our more close to urban as we can get in this area. And then we have our reservation out here, which is more rural. We also have unresolved traumas, historical or otherwise. Some examples can be the urban relocation programs. Those that relocated may have not had a very good experience. Boarding schools is a big one. History of abuse, sexual or otherwise. So it's really good to have someone on board who is knowledgeable and skilled in being able to handle trauma situations as they arise. And we also have racism, homophobia, and xenophobia. So we need to be mindful of people, of where they come from so that they feel safe. Other cultural considerations is you have the opportunity to provide culturally respectful, meaningful mental health services. There is a pervasive and ongoing need for Native-centric or culturally sensitive mental health services. Research and anecdotally mentioned. You have the ability to know and understand trends and needs, which is a key role. Confidentiality. For some Native patients, it's an absolute barrier to care, linkage to care, retention in care, and aftercare. Native people may have a personal family experience with breaches of confidentiality. They may have had a bad experience somewhere, so now I'm not going to trust anybody. It is critical we maintain the highest level of confidentiality if we are serious about improving the quality of life for all people. And in small communities, that can be a little challenging at times, because even though we constantly remind them, it's like I said, just because it's a small community, it seems, for me anyway, challenging in where I'm at. Using culture to help with the engagement process can be the introductions, reaffirming them as experts in their own experience, spirituality, always opening and closing prayer, someone in group from the local community, elder in the group, or you may have to lead it yourself. So being able to designate someone to take care of that for your group. Like every morning here, we burn cedar and we all smudge ourselves every morning to start our day. Engagement, there's a 10-second rule, especially for elders. So we want to give them, again, those moments of silence and respect. Have a referral list available for local Native organizations. So, you know, where the health clinics are, where the WIC office is, are there any food banks or whatever services might be beneficial, the education office for people that want to get a GED, and showing up for other Native events in the community. So whenever there's events going on, I think my second day here in Crow Country, they were having their Indian Day. So they were having a run and a walk, and I got up and I got here early and I participated in that. So every time there is something going on, I go participate. When I'm asked to go speak, I go do it. I do everything I can to engage myself into the community that I'm working in now. And it is a two-way street. You want to offer snacks and water. We always try to have something here for our clients to drink. Even if it's just a bottle of water, we offer them something, and incentives. So, you know, engaging them in incentives. We have, for their graduation, we make like little gift bags of things for them that they get to take when they're done as part of their completion of the program. Other incentives could be transportation, food, and gift cards. Literature that speaks to the patient and provider relationship regarding incentives. Is the patient seeking services only for incentives, or is the patient personally motivated? So it's important to pay attention to that as well. As long as the patient is returning for services, you have the golden opportunity to engage and build trust. So as long as they keep coming back, you know that they're putting forth that effort in their own recovery, that they're committed to changing, are completing just what they have to do for legal services or DFS, whatever it is that brought them. Some retention strategies is building relationships with community leaders. Consistency is vital when building these relationships. Be prepared to inform them of your program intent and progress. Here, I have to do a monthly report that goes to the HR department, and I also have to submit a written report. So it's keeping them informed of what's going on in your program. Give ample time to process information and to ask questions. Some more retention strategies, getting local organization support. So doing outreach face-to-face, no phone calls, emails, or faxes. If it is a new organization, start at the top. It may take multiple attempts. So not everybody's willingly going to support your program. You may have to keep reminding them that you have services to offer in the community, and maybe they have something that might benefit your program as well. Integrating cultural activities such as dancing, beadwork, shawl making circles, and cooking traditional foods can be a great way to build a therapeutic relationship, trust, connection, and knowledge. Taking the professional out of the professional and creating more of the personal. And back home, I did see one program that did a really good job of having their craft hour that was also counted as a treatment time, because they did do beading and sewing and all of this that they talk about. So that is very important for them to find some creative outlets for themselves and finding new hobbies. Lastly, reminding patients of Native specific cultural strengths builds motivation, courage, and healing. Native patients do not hear this information very often. However, I believe Native people know these strengths because they are demonstrated in stories, among our elders, and through our ceremonies. Sometimes it just needs to be pointed out and reminded of and built upon. Some Native retention strategies, you would want to look at everyone who is participating in recovery as survivors. You know, most of these people have been through a lot of trauma, but they're, you know, maybe this time they're ready to turn their life around. So, you know, you can look at them as like, hey, you know, you're a survivor, you got through all of that. Remembering our ancestors, you know, they sacrificed a great deal so that we could be here today. So we always have to remember those before us, that we're resilient, you know, we're still here after everything that we've been put through. We're adaptable, we're community minded. We don't just think for ourselves, we think for everyone. Our spirituality is important, our connections to the past. Our family is important, the elders are respected, and our youth is our next generation that, you know, we need to prepare them to take over. Our holistic thinking, having cultural pride, using our language, remembering the food, our land, like we just did the land acknowledgement before we started today, and ceremony. All of this is really important when working with natives, and I often feel that this is a strong way to attract clients that are struggling with substances, because I know a lot of them stop participating in cultural activities because they know it is looked down upon in the traditional cultural environments of, you know, if you're using, you know, you shouldn't be here because you should be have a clear mind. And I think once they start to reconnect, that it really helps to enhance your treatment programming. And once they start to build themselves up and start to feel strong and healthy about being who they are, that it really helps them. So this is a real big component of the work that I do. I always like to include traditional ceremonies in the programming for the clients. And that wraps up today's session. We have about 5 minutes left. I can take some questions from anyone. Hit the stop share button so I can see everybody.
Also, while people think of their questions, I'm just going to add 2 brief messages to the chat. The first is about our evaluation for this session. So if you have 5 minutes, please just tell us what you thought of the session. Also, you can find more events on our homepage, which I'll post as well. If you have questions, I believe you should be able to unmute yourself now and ask them yourself, or just put them in the chat.
No questions?
Yeah, I had a question.
Okay.
I just had a question on, like, do you have any resources, like books or any
Well,
article for group counseling and stuff like that?
I was actually going to, I downloaded it on my computer, but I need to download it on my laptop. Tip 41 from SAMHSA. If you go to their website, it is totally free to download, and it is on group counseling. I really recommend it. It's free. It has a lot of really good information on group counseling. And if you're looking for books, I don't have my books here today, but I have a couple of articles that I can attach that I'll send to these guys so that they can send them out to you on group counseling specific to working with natives.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is that it for today? Okay, well, thank you guys, all of you, for taking time out of your schedule to attend this training today. I'm always happy to see some familiar faces, which I'm starting to see some of you guys that have been here before. I hope that this is helpful to you and that you gain something that will, help you in the work that you do. And I'm so glad that we have you people out there, helping our people get well and get healthy. And I wish you guys all the best. So stay safe, and I'll see you guys next month for the next series.
Great. Thank you very much, Avis, and thanks to everyone for joining. Have a good Wednesday.